What good folks, it's Darktree19 and welcome back to another What If Naruto Gained the Power of the Predator Part 2. So like, comment, subscribe and share, but besides all that, enjoy the video. Chapter 2 Suspicions. Tsunade was thankful to see Hinata was back in Konoha safely, as she had heard about how the infamous demon who makes trophies out of shinobi had been in the young girl's presence for well over a minute, and felt it was strange to hear how he, from what Hinata described of the enigma's figure, saved Hinata from Mizuki. The traitor's death was brutal, but a death fit for someone of Mizuki's stature considering his past actions against the Leaf, and Naruto of all people. Thank you for giving this report to me right away, Neji. You too, Hinata. Because of you too, we now have an accurate description of this person, and will make it very difficult for him to hide, said Tsunade, as she would have the description be written down in the bingo book with an artistic picture to help match the description. It was our pleasure, Hokage-sama, but there is still something bothering me, and I wish to share it with you, said Hinata, as she saw Tsunade raise an eyebrow at her, and then looked at Neji to see he wanted to hear this too. What exactly is bothering you, Hinata-sama? Said Neji, as he knew that whatever it was that bothered his cousin, it was possibly connected to this mission, and this demon they had met. To be honest, Neji-ni-san, I'm not really sure, but when the demon killed Mizuki, he retreated after you appeared, and before leaving mentioned how we had both grown. It was almost like he knew us from another lifetime, said Hinata, as she saw Tsunade raise an eyebrow at this, and saw Neji deep in thought about that moment as well. I do not know of such a person in all our years growing up, Hinata-sama, said Neji, as he saw Hinata nodding her head in agreement, and Tsunade seemed stumped by this too. Still, it is a possible clue to this guy's identity, and look into that on your own time since you two look like you could rest for a bit. Even if we didn't capture this guy, I'm glad that you both came back unharmed, and possibly beat this guy in the long run, said Tsunade, as she saw them nod, and left after she dismissed them. Even if we do get this guy in the long run, from what they told us, a lot more people are going to die before that happens, and each death is going to get worse, said Jiraiya, as he appeared on a window, and saw Tsunade glaring at him now. Which is why I sent you out to find Naruto while training and protecting from such a threat, said Tsunade, as she had nearly thrown her entire office quite literally out the window when Jiraiya told her that he couldn't find the blonde Gaki, and aimed her wrath at him. I know, Tsunade-heim. I've tried finding Naruto. I did everything I can think of, but I am unable to find him, and do what I should have done when he was growing up in the Leaf to make sure he got the protection he deserved, said Jiraiya, as he saw Tsunade flinch at that since they both ignored their godparent duties, and were in reality cowards for it. Whatever the dumb Gaki is doing, I only hope that Naruto is getting stronger, and just staying the hell away from this guy, said Tsunade, as she had collapsed back into her chair, and looked out the window behind her to see the Hokage monument. The life this village had when Naruto was in it had long since left, and it seemed to be so painfully hollow without him around. You and me both, Tsunade. You and me both, said Jiraiya, as he took off the same way he entered, and decided to find something to do before heading out to find Naruto again. Ichiraku ramen stand 2 days later. I miss Naruto, said Choji, as he ate his ramen slowly, and had been ever since Naruto had left, since there was no one around to compete with in terms of eating outside of his own clan. You and me both, Choji. I never thought I'd say this, but Naruto not being here is more troublesome than with him not, and I actually wish to see a prank that has his signature written all over it, said Shikamaru, as he had joined his friend in eating here, and felt that Naruto not being here was like taking all clouds out of the sky. Hey guys, did you hear? Hinata and Neji encountered the demon guy, said Ino, as she came into the ramen stand, and saw her teammates now look at her with surprise. They did? Are they alright? Said Shikamaru, as he knew the reputation this guy had, and feared for his friends' lives. Yeah, they are. Thank Kami on that one, right? From what I'm told, Hinata had a run-in with Mizuki, who escaped from prison, and the demon guy interfered by killing Mizuki before he could do anything to Hinata, said Ino, as she had been telling anyone who would listen, and saw her friends breathing a sigh of relief since Hinata being hurt, if not worse, was not something they could handle right now. While I'm glad Hinata-san is safe, it does beg the question of why this guy let her go, and Neji too for that matter? Said Shikamaru, as he felt something was off about that, and couldn't place his finger on it. Maybe he doesn't kill women. Who knows? Said Ino, as she sat down, and ordered something for herself since she needed the energy for telling everyone what she knew. Doesn't kill women? That's it. Ino, you're a genius despite your dumb blonde ways, said Shikamaru, as he ran off to check something out, and then tell the Hokage if his finds were in fact accurate. Thanks, Shika. Hey wait. Come back here, Shikamaru, and I'll show you a dumb blonde, said Ino, as she was fuming at the insult, and then realized she just insulted herself for saying that last part. Hokage Tower 3 days later, "You're sure your findings are accurate on this data?" said Tsunade, as Shikamaru along with Shino were now before her going over what had been discovered, and saw that this was indeed interesting. "We went over our findings twice, Hokage-sama. Apparently, this particular individual has yet to kill a single female shinobi during his hunts, if you wish to call them that, since not many women even become shinobi in shinobi villages, unless in terms of leaving to become missing nin. If we send female shinobi after this demon guy, I think there is a good chance we can capture and if not that, then at least kill him," said Shino, as he saw Tsunade consider this option, and looking the data over that had been collected. "I would hate to send any kind of shinobi team after this demon, much less a team of only female shinobi, but you may have a point in this regard, and I'll select some people for this mission," said Tsunade, as she knew the shinobi council would be quite upset, and so would the female variety too, since they were scared of this guy for what he does to his victims. "Thank you, Hokage-sama. On a much more different subject, has there been any word from Uzumaki Naruto, and if he is returning anytime soon?" said Shino, as his teammate really missed the blonde, and in a way so did the Aburame. "I'm sorry, Shino, but I can't bring Naruto back to the Leaf just yet, and the Fire Daimyo has been swamped with his own duties as of late to even process the request to rescind the banishment order," said Tsunade, as she couldn't tell them that Naruto was not only banished, but had been unreachable for the last 3 years, and had no way to contact him. "I understand, Hokage-sama. Excuse me while I inform my teammates," said Shino, as he left to go inform Hinata of this information, and left just Shikamaru in the room with the woman. "You have more to say that you couldn't in front of Shino?" said Tsunade, as she saw the Nara scratch his head, and looking nervous about asking something. A habit Shikamaru picked up from his father before saying something that soon got him whacked in the back of the head with a frying pan by the woman who ruled both of them until the younger Nara got himself a wife to whip him. "Yeah. I know it sounds strange, but there seems to be a pattern in regards to this guy's appearance that you haven't seen, or quite possibly ignoring for a certain reason," said Shikamaru, as he saw Tsunade now narrowing her eyes at him, and the lazy Nara knew he was one word away from getting punched straight to his house before his mother sent him back after hearing he upset the female Hokage. "And what kind of pattern is that, Shikamaru? I would advise you to choose your words very carefully," said Tsunade, as she saw Shikamaru sweating heavily now, and knew she was not going to like what he had to say. "Troublesome. No matter what I say, you'll probably punch me out of this room, so I will just come out and say it before you can. I think from what I've seen, this demon maybe Naruto," said Shikamaru, as he saw Tsunade's eyes widen at his words, and then did exactly what he thought she would do. "Punch him right out of the room. That stupid baka. Shikamaru has some nerve. Naruto is not this monster. Naruto would not have the heart to do what has been done to Konoha shinobi and that of other shinobi from other villages," thought Tsunade angrily, as she sat down, and tried to calm herself at the rage that those words had filled her being. Still, even with the sudden rage passing, the words had brought about an important point that Tsunade had in fact ignored, possibly on a subconscious level, and the fact that she also didn't want to even accept to be true regardless if she saw it or not. The memory of Naruto before his banishment still lived on in her mind, and Tsunade could not picture that boy filled with so much life be transformed into this thing that brutally destroys all that is in its path. A thing that skins people, taking their skulls, and in some cases the spinal columns too. However, the doubt was beginning to grow in Tsunade's head, as she realized the simple truth, and that shortly after Naruto disappeared this monster of a man appears. Closing her eyes, Tsunade prayed to Kami that it wasn't true, and called Shizune in to gather a specific number of female shinobi to her office for an assignment none of them were going to like. Rice Country Sound Village 4 days later, Orochimaru was upset, which since the loss of getting the Uchiha was nothing new, and had been in an increasingly foul mood that even Kabuto had to be extra cautious when approaching the Sannin. Orochimaru had already gone through a new body 3 years ago and needed a new one soon, with the results without a body being death. "Orochimaru-sama, the body you need is ready, and awaiting your soul to enter it," said Kabuto, as he knew that would make his master partially happy, and yet angry all the same since it wasn't the Uchiha's body. "Good. I need to enter my new body now or else all will be lost," said Orochimaru, as he now made his way to the room specifically for such an occasion, and extending his life another 3 years. What the snake Sannin saw when he got there, however, was not what Orochimaru was expecting, and neither was Kabuto, since the vessel chosen was in the condition it was left in. The body, or rather what was left of it, was splattered all over the room, and made Orochimaru furious at the sight of it all. "This is bad. There are no other vessels in sound for Orochimaru-sama to take as his own now," thought Kabuto, who saw this, in his mind, horrible travesty, and then looked at an infuriated Orochimaru. You have some explaining to do, Kabuto, said Orochimaru, as he believed that this was Kabuto's way of betraying him in his moment of weakness, and intended on killing the boy before such betrayal could be completed. Oh Orochimaru-sama, I did not cause this carnage, said Kabuto, as he saw the snake Sannin was getting ready to unleash his anger on him, and feared for his life. If you didn't, as you claim, Kabuto, then who did? Said Orochimaru, as he wanted some answers, and he wanted them now. And Orochimaru did get his answers when he sensed something behind him and leapt out of the way seconds before a blast of red chakra hit Kabuto in the chest. Rolling to the side, Orochimaru saw Kabuto was now on the ground dead. His wound in the chest was steaming with the intense heat the chakra had hit him, with the wound instant becoming cauterized, and had a faraway look that told the Sannin that even Kabuto couldn't believe this had happened to him. Orochimaru of the Sannin, you will make an excellent hunt, and your head will be a nice trophy for my collection, said the unseen figure in the room, and it made the Sannin in the room narrow his eyes before looking at the door. I think not, thought Orochimaru, as he ran to the door, but was stopped when red lasers crisscrossed, and blocked his path of leaving the room. Turning around, Orochimaru saw the now uncloaked figure ready for a fight with a dual spear-like weapon in hand, and heard the growling sound this person was making. In his current condition, Orochimaru knew this person was not to be taken lightly, and needed to be taught a lesson for killing his new vessel along with Kabuto, to a certain extent. So deciding to go all out, the snake Sannin revealed to the masked figure his true form, being a large albino snake comprised of many much smaller snakes after performing countless experiments on himself in the hunt for immortality. Seeing this, the masked figure extended his right hand's wrist blades, and brought out his chakram that in the common tongue, if he was asked, would have meant smart disc with his other hand. Orochimaru let out an inhuman cry, as bloodlust filled his being, and he could tell this masked enemy was feeling it too. With deadly speed and precision, the Sannin struck with the intent in biting his prey complete in two, and missed with the wall being eating instead. Seeing his opportunity, the masked figure unleashed his chakram at Orochimaru, and sliced the giant snake in half. However, as the disc bounced off a wall, and back to him, the Sannin reattached his lower body back together. Seeing this, the masked hunter put away his chakram, and readied his combi stick to use against the Sannin. Orochimaru extended his jaws wide, as he charged forward, faked left before moving right, and after dodging the thrown spear weapon to wrap his body around the masked hunter. Grinning in apparent victory, the Sannin squeezed harder while trying to make the masked figure's head go pop, and laughed while doing it. The Sannin's victory, however, was cut a bit short when pain went through his skull, and Orochimaru was struck in the head by the combi stick that the masked hunter had thrown away. It turns out that the combi stick was a henge, as well as his enemy being a shadow clone, and the real masked hunter had used the real combi stick to pierce the Sannin's skull. Orochimaru howled out in pain, as he struggled to somehow try to get the weapon out of his skull, while the masked figure brought out his shuriken, and threw it at the Sannin repeatedly, with the injuries leaving cuts before the combi stick got free. Swinging his tail at the masked figure, Orochimaru was pleased to see he had hit his target, and once more wrapped his form around his prey. Acting quickly, the masked hunter took out a canister of blue solvent in his left hand, and used his wrist blade to counter the Kusanagi sword that came out of Orochimaru's mouth. Chew on this, said the masked hunter, as he threw the canister of blue solvent into the Sannin's mouth, and heard the glass breaking, with the solvent now being swallowed down the monster snake's throat. Orochimaru cried out in pain, as the solvent began destroying his body, and left only a simple blood stain on the ground when it ran its course through his system. Still, it was against the masked hunter's beliefs to leave without some kind of trophy for such a hard-fought hunt, and set out to go through Orochimaru's lair to find an item that could become a trophy. Not before aiming his plasma canister at Kabuto's head and blew it off to make sure the man was really dead. Konoha Hokage Tower 2 weeks later, do you understand the mission I am giving you? If you want to back out of this mission, now is the time, and I won't blame you for doing so, said Tsunade, as she saw the group of women before her trained in the shinobi arts, and each one different than the last. Before her was Mitarashi Anko, Uzuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, Inuzuka Hana, and Hyuga Hinata, all being brought together for the single purpose of hunting down a common foe. Granted, Hinata was not one of the shinobi Tsunade wanted to use, but the Hyuga girl was the only one who could possibly stall the demon shinobi long enough for him to be taken down and unmasked before being interrogated for information. We understand the mission, Hokage-sama. We find, capture, and/or kill this guy before we find out who he is, said Anko, as she was interested in this guy, and wondered if he didn't kill women because he was being chivalrous or because he thought women were weak. Correct. However, I don't need to remind you to be on your guard since everyone this monster had faced have all met gruesome deaths, and one false move could be your end, said Tsunade, as she saw them nod, and all them were prepared to go forward with this mission. When the group of young women left the Hokage's office, Shino was waiting for Hinata, and so was Kiba since he didn't like two people he cared about going on a suicide mission that will get them skinned alive if not worse. Kiba-kun. Shino-kun. What are you doing here? Said Hinata, as she greeted her teammates, and saw they were worried about her. We came to hope you would reconsider this mission. Many within the village would fall into depression were anything to happen to you, and if you were to die then Naruto will never know that you, said Shino, as he stayed silent when Hinata blushed a little at that part, but at the same time stayed strong and not backing out of this mission, and had a look of determination on her face. I appreciated this from the both of you, but I must do this mission, and strangely enough I feel like I have to do it to find Naruto-kun. As if there is a part of myself deep in my very soul telling me that by going on this mission I will see him again and tell him how I feel, said Hinata, as she wanted to talk to the blonde for so long, and confess to him the feelings deep inside her heart that ached to be let out. While such a thing is highly improbable given that Naruto-san's unknown location at the present moment, there have been stranger things happening lately, and I do wish for such an event to happen. Please come back safe Hinata-san, said Shino, as he bowed his head, and left without another word. Yeah, what he said Hinata-chan. And if you see Naruto Baka, tell him I want a rematch, and I won't let a simple fart beat me, said Kiba, as he hugged Hinata, and left to speak with his sister about reconsider doing this mission. Somewhere in a forest of fire country 1 week later, the demon of shinobi, as he was so called in the shinobi world, leapt from tree to tree in an acrobatic fashion, and stopped on a tree when he heard a sound not far from him. Looking down below, the hunter looked down to see the forms of two individuals walking side by side, and talking friendly banter. Once was clearly taller than the other, as he wielded a sword currently strapped on his back, and the other more shorter one talked only at certain points in the conversation. They were Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame of the Akatsuki organization. The masked hunter grinned at this generous hunt before him, as it had been some time since he had a good hunt, and what better way to have a good one than with these two. They were strong, skilled, and would last much longer than the weaklings he normally found himself hunting from time to time. Hey Itachi, you sense him don't you? Said Kisame in a whisper to his partner while they looked straight ahead. Yes. He's above us. Be cautious Kisame, there is a reason why this person is an S-class criminal, and is feared by all the shinobi villages in the elemental countries, said Itachi in his usual calm voice, but there was a faint edge in it, and it told Kisame to be prepared to draw his sword in an instant. Yeah, I know Itachi. What he does to his victims creeps me out, and that's saying really something when you consider who I am, said Kisame, as he felt that such a way to die was no way for a shinobi to meet his end, and it made a chill run down his spine. Before any more could be said, the figure in question had landed about 15 feet in front of them with a loud thud, as he deactivated his cloaking device, and stared at the two S-class missing nins with his masked eyes flashing red for a second. For Kisame, he could see why Pain wanted this scary guy to join the Akatsuki organization, as he was no doubt very strong in a physical sense, and not afraid to kill in a brutal fashion. As for Itachi, he was cautious of this figure because the mask would prevent him from using the standard powers of his Sharingan, and there was no record of the man's skills, making this enigma just that. An enigma. Greetings Demon of Shinobi. We are members of the Akatsuki organization and wish to offer you membership on behalf of our leader. He recognizes your talents and wishes for you to put them to better use with our group. Do you accept? Said Itachi, as he saw the figure cock his head to the right, then to the left, and heard a strange growling noise from the masked hunter. No, said the masked hunter, as he became invisible again, and brought out his wrist blades once he was out of their line of sight. Well, at least we can tell Pain-sama we tried, said Kisame, as he brought out his sword while Itachi didn't move, and let the enemy make the first move. A faint whirling sound got the young Uchiha's attention, as he turned around to see a pair of multi-bladed discs spinning towards him, and leapt away along with Kisame so the weapons would fly by. However, those were just a distraction, as a sound near Kisame got the man's attention, and years of keeping his senses sharp from countless battles now saved him from losing his head after dodging a spear-like weapon thrown at his shark-like head. Itachi intervened with a fire jutsu, but the intended target had moved on already, and was on the move for a better position in claiming his prey. Kisame readied his sword for another attack, as he looked around for his now invisible prey, and focused on using his other senses to find this guy. Hearing a thump sound behind him, Kisame quickly swung hard on his right side with his sword hitting tree bark, as he missed whatever it was that had been standing there, and it was then he realized his mistake after it was too late. Kisame had been baited with his prey leaping from the spot now in front of him, over the Akatsuki member's head, and landed behind the man before finishing the swing. Now the figure was facing Kisame's exposed back, wrist blades extended to their maximum limit, and stabbed the man from behind. Only for Kisame to turn into water. "Gotcha," said Kisame, as he struck from above, and sliced the man in half. Before going poof, which indicated the figure Kisame had slain was a shadow clone, and that shocked both members of Akatsuki. Before Kisame could react to this shocking information, the figure struck by launching a bolt of crimson chakra from his spot above the shark man that hit him directly in the chest, and right through the heart with the body not turning into water. This meant that the Akatsuki member was indeed the real deal and was now dead with his killer turning towards the second half of this pairing. "I must flee and report to Pain-sama this turn of events," thought Itachi, as he took off with Kisame's killer in pursuit of him, and intending to add his life to follow Kisame's. Itachi had seen the chakra bolt that had hit Kisame, which felt like Kyuubi's chakra of all things, and confirmed it when using his Sharingan eyes on the attack. Only one person had Kyuubi's chakra running through his body, and that person was thought to have fallen off the face of the planet several years ago. His train of thought on the matter, however, stopped instantly when he dodged another pair of spinning multi-bladed discs, and then stopped when the strange spear weapon hit a tree in front of him. Itachi then leapt back before drawing his own sword out in his right hand and a kunai in his left with his Sharingan now active. "Gotcha," said a warped version of Kisame's voice that made Itachi look up before his eyes widened and rolled to his right to avoid the large body mass that was his enemy. "Amaterasu," said Itachi, as he used one of his Sharingan's high-level powers that would finish his foe for good, and consumed the hunter in the dark fire. Letting out a sigh of relief, Itachi winced at the blood leaking from his eyes, as they now returned to their normal dark orbs, and struggled to stay on his feet. "Hey Itachi," said a slightly lesser warped voice that resembled Kisame that made the Uchiha clan killer turn around and was greet a pair of wrist blades entering his stomach before lifting him up while he cried out in pain. "This cannot be happening," thought Itachi, as he felt the blades leave his body, and then instant death when the masked hunter brought out a sword to slice his head clean off. "2 hunts. 2 pairs worth of trophies," said the masked hunter, as he walked with his prize, and Itachi's ringed hand back to Kisame's corpse to collect on both body parts too. Something to signify just who had been killed at his hands, like he did with Orochimaru's original ring-covered hand. Elsewhere 4 days later, "Were you able to track him from the spot Hinata met him?" said Anko, as she saw Hana using her Inuzuka senses to track the scent of the masked hunter, and had followed him so far to this spot. "Yeah. It's strange, but his scent is all over the place, and yet, it's fresh. No more than a few minutes if not more," said Hana, as they had been tracking this guy for some time, and finally caught his scent after a supposed sighting. "Keep your guard up. If he is around here somewhere, then that means he knows that we are here, and hunting him," said Yugao, as she readied herself for battle, and Hinata was once more trying to locate him with her Byakugan. "I won't die on this or any other mission. Not until I tell Naruto-kun how I feel," thought Hinata, as she looked around for anything that would give away this foe's position, and help her team further. Cautiously, the group of female shinobi moved forward, and trying to follow whatever traces of the masked hunter. They knew he was near, and they knew that he was watching them, with the wrong move possibly being their last. "Brave of them. But foolish," said the dark voice, as masked hunter's eyes flashed red in his cloaked form, and watched them from the trees above until the moment was right to strike. "He's near. I sense bloodlust all around us," said Anko, as she felt everyone stiffen, and get ready for a fight while forming a defensive circle formation. Now was the moment for the masked hunter to strike. Leaping from his position in the tree, he acrobatically landed in the middle of the circle formation, and attacked using taijutsu that seemed inhuman to perform given the size of the man. Anko tried using her hidden shadow snake jutsu on the man, but he tore them to pieces with his sword, and hit the woman with a spin kick to the face that sent her flying into a nearby tree. Hana leapt on top of his back, tried to bite into the side of his neck while using her claws to dig into his skin, but was thrown off with one hand by his incredible strength, and was unaffected by Kurenai's own attempts at casting a genjutsu on him. Which was why the shocked young woman was kneed in the breadbasket before being elbowed in the back to further increase her body's impact with the ground. Uzuki Yugao had the best of luck given her skills with a sword, as she attacked his with Hayate's old sword, and began clashing with the masked hunter's own sword. Sparks flew from their swords connecting with Yugao, as she knew full well not to match her foe in terms of strength, for it was far greater than her own, and hoped her skills with a sword would be what she needed to take him down. She was wrong when the masked hunter feinted left, sweep kicked the Anbu woman off her feet, and took the sword right out of Yugao's hands to examine it, much to her horror. This sword. It once belonged to Gecko Hayate, said the masked figure, as he studied the sword with an appraising eye, and saw Yu Gao glaring at him. So? Said Yu Gao, as she was inwardly surprised by this, and wondered how this man knew about her lover. I just find it strange you would try to kill me when in actuality, I killed your lover's murderer, said the masked hunter, as he threw the blade into a tree where it pierced the trunk all the way to the hilt, and saw Yu Gao's shocked face. And you expect me to show some kind of gratitude for that? Said Yu Gao, as she saw Hinata moving in behind the figure, and seemed to be waiting for something to happen. Perhaps. Though for me, it was returning the favor to someone who actually knows the difference between a kunai and a scroll that holds it. He defended me when I was little and chose to honor a wish that no one else had the mind to do so themselves out of their own arrogance, said the masked hunter in a cryptic tone, but turned his head when he heard Hinata's gasp of understanding behind him, and leapt behind the girl before knocking her out while catching the Hyuga girl in his arms. Hinata, said Kurenai, as she got up from the ground, and tried to rush the hunter with a kunai in hand in order to make him drop the girl to defend himself. However, the masked hunter leapt back into the thickness of the trees, and the women on ground below could practically sense the smile on his face. It's been a long time since I smelled the scent lavender. I had nearly forgotten, said the masked hunter, as let Hinata's scent fill his senses, and then saw the others below now jumping up to intercept him. Give her back this instant, said Kurenai, as she was not going to lose her student to this monster, and was going to make him pay for the attempt. I will. In time, of course. She and I have much to catch up on, said the masked figure, as he leapt away, and shot a chakra bolt from his shoulder plasma canister at the tree's base, causing it to fall in the group's general direction to give him time to escape. Within moments, the two were gone, and the group of female shinobi felt fear grip their hearts like never before. The most pure of them was just taken to Kami knows where by a demonic hunter that took skulls as trophies, if Inoiki's beliefs were true, about the missing heads. Thanks for listening, and remember, the disrespect is real. Goodbye.